All right, we get a lot of questions as, realtors and real estate agents. We get a lot of questions from buyers and, trying to figure out, trying to navigate the waters in the market that we're in right now. And one of the biggest questions I get asked is, John, should I buy or should I rent? That's probably the number one question I get. And if you talk to any real estate agent, guess what they're probably going to say? You should buy. Buy. It makes sense. Well, it depends. It depends on a couple different factors. And first off, what are your 3, 5, 10-year goals? Do you plan on being in the area for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Because if you look at the numbers, it financially doesn't make sense if you don't plan to be in the area for more than 2 years. If you plan to buy a house and then sell it, if you plan to rent it, that's a different story. But if you plan to buy a house and then sell it because you're going to move out of the area within 2 years, it does not make financial sense for you to buy right now. You should probably rent for 2 years and then leave. So you got to start with the question of should I buy or should I rent starts with you figuring out what your goals are, where your life's going to be, or where you want your life to be in the next 3, 5, 10 years. Okay. So you need to start there. And then number two, you need to go visit. There are online rent versus own calculators to where you can plug in mortgage payments, house price, rental value, taxes, insurance, general statistics about what it would cost you if you're buying or renting. And there's calculators that you can look at and say, hey, does it make financial sense? Now, what I would tell you is where we live in Virginia, DC, Maryland, it makes sense financially to buy if you plan to live in the house for at least 2 years, because after 2 years, if you forget what's happening in the world right now and just take the average over the last 100 years, you could buy the house, sell it within 2 years, and you would still come out on top. Now, the biggest question people have now is we're going into a recession. We're in a recession. How is it going to affect housing and rates? And should I buy? Should I rent? The biggest thing is as renting, take a look at what that rent is on a monthly basis. So let's just say, for example, it's $2,000 for rent. Now, if you plan to be there for the next year, that is $24,000. After 2 years, it's $48,000. And if you are spending $48,000 over 4 years, you're never going to see that money again. That's gone. It's toast, right? And you could say that there's corrections or shifts, but that money's toast. And so you need to figure out, again, what's my long-term goal? Does it make sense? There's a saying right now. It is marry the house, date the rate. So right now, rates are creeping up. They're probably going to be higher. Now, we're also we're going into a recession. So once we go into a recession, the Fed cannot keep raising rates. If you look historically, once we're in a recession, obviously rates are going to come back down. And so, we have some people buying now knowing that rates are going to be going up, and so to lock in their property. But again, you got to figure out for you, does it make sense financially, and do I understand? We're not here to push anybody to buy a house if they don't feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable and I help you buy a house, if something happens in the market, you're always going to come back at me, right? So the whole goal is we're going to give you optics. We're going to give you perspective. We're going to give you our perspective on a couple different scenarios. And then you as the buyer, you got to figure out, does it make financial sense? I will say most times it does make financial sense to buy. By buying, there are so many benefits that you have: tax breaks, appreciation, depreciation, that you can cost segregate and you can write off more on your taxes. So many benefits to owning as opposed to renting, because renting, once you write that check, you never see it again. So should you buy, should you rent? It depends.